you at cheering one day?
It was a very humble upbringing, you know. We never had anything really much, but
Didn't need it, didn't miss it.
we had freedom and we had...
But we were self-sufficient.
Yeah.
I found a photograph recently of myself when I was about sitting on the wall outside the porch door, and behind me was just the whole garden.
Yeah.
Cabbage, peas, potatoes, everything, drills of everything. And I was sitting there.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I saw the photograph, I was saying, God, how did I forget? But we had all of that, and then we used to have a glut of potatoes and things like that. So they used to dig a pit in the ground. So what they used to literally do was dig a pit, and they used to line it with straw. And all the potatoes, they'd dig them and put them into the pit, and then put straw on top of that. And then the onions, they'd go in as well. The carrots.
Yeah.
Apples, then you were able to save them with newspaper wrapped around them in boxes. They were kept inside. But Daddy then and Michael and Jim used to shoot and hunt.
Yeah.
And we had pheasants and ducks and pigeons and rabbits
Everything, grouse,
and
widgeon.
fish. They used to go dragging the river for salmon.
That's illegal.
It was years ago. We had trout, you know, we had everything. So,
You wanted
and
for
we
nothing.
lived by the seasons.
Yeah.
You know.
I remember once we had American cousins came over and came to our house, and of course there was 7 children in our house living in a very small cottage and a very humble upbringing, I have to say. We never had money or anything like that, hence the clothes coming from the Fahys. But Mammy, they just dropped on my mother, you know. She's like, Jesus Christ, what am I going to do? So anyway, my father had been out shooting and had got a few pheasants, and there was some rabbits and all of these. So Mommy just thought, well, I'll do these, got them ready and put them in the oven and cook this feast with our own vegetables. And I remember the Yanks thinking this was like cordon bleu cooking. This was just amazing. And like for us, believe it or not, for us, a white sliced loaf was a real treat, because we always had homemade bread. So when Mommy would have like a white sliced loaf, or sliced pan as we call it, that was amazing for us.
Yeah.
And we'd be looking in the window at the visitors having sandwiches with white bread, and we'd be thinking, oh, I hope they leave us a few so we can get a taste of the white bread. All I say, because like I said, Mommy, she'd be up every morning and there's always a smell of bread in the house in the morning, 5 or 6 loaves of bread.
Yeah, scones and bread every morning when we wake up for school. Yeah.
What was she up then?
She worked as a nurse, and she always did night work, and she never drove. So Daddy used to drive her at night, and she'd stay there all night. Actually, Mammy was a hospice nurse before there was ever a hospice nurse in it, because she didn't work in a hospital. She worked with people in their own home. Yeah. So Mammy then would be finished at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and she'd come straight home. First thing she'd do when she'd come in the door is put on the apron, rustle up the cooker and start baking bread. And when we'd wake, when she'd call us for school, the bread would be baked and out on the table. Bread and scones. And that's the way we were reared. Sometimes there would be a few buns, you know, queen cakes. And that's what we knew as children growing up. We never knew
I know.
shops, and we always made our own jams and all of those things. So we went to school with jam sandwiches. We were mortified because the farmers' daughters did have roast beef sandwiches. We always had jam sandwiches. So but we had that every day when we were children growing up, and she'd make the bread
hens and ducks
fresh.
and everything. And
Yeah,
dogs
and she used to make the bread in a loaf. She used to make it in the round, you know, the cross. And she'd make that every day or every second day.
Exhausting.
No, they just did it. They didn't mind.
It was just routine, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And she had 7 of us, so she had to have a routine.
Yeah.
Because my father didn't really have any input in us at all, bringing us up. She brought us up more than single-handed. Yeah.
But that was that generation at that time, you know.
You would have loved her. She was great fun.
Ladies, though, have you really?
No, we
You're
haven't.
right.
No, we haven't.
We didn't, because again,
It was
you
more
sort
humble
of, we
time.
were brought up with, like, we were brought up with respect for other people, and we were brought up with manners. You know what I mean? And they were the most important things that she could ever have given us, really, to respect other people and to always be polite and have manners. And I remember she used to always say as well, a pair of shiny shoes will take you far in life. You know, if you have shoes,
Yeah.
make sure they're polished.
Yeah.
And like on a Saturday night, we would be lined up like sheep, 7 of us. When we did eventually get a bath, which wasn't until a long, long time into our growing up really, we used to all have our hair washed for Sunday Mass. We'd all have to polish the shoes, get them ready. And then she used to curl our hair because you probably can't tell now because it's very straight my hair. But my hair is like Roisin's. Risha has a kink as well. Joanne,
Every one of
very
us,
curly hair.
But she encouraged it.
She used to wash her hair and then she would curl it on
the
it with a brush,
sausages.
a round brush, go like this, and it would drop down. We used to have to sit out in the evening sun then for it to dry, and then that was our hair wash for the week.
Now,
Very
there was no
humble,
needs
you know.
and there was no nothing. And we had the healthiest hair ever.
Yeah, and she used to be saving the rainwater to rinse her hair
That's
with.
right, to put a shine on her hair.
Oh, isn't that
Yeah,
lovely?
rainwater.
Mum used to do that. Let's
Yeah.
go on about the rainwater.
Like all the minerals that are in the rain is in the rain.
Yeah,
It couldn't but do you good, you know.
yeah, yeah.
See, you need to record all of this now because you talk about the past is forgotten, but all this stuff
Yeah.
will be forgotten
Yeah.
as well.
And I mean, our house was, again, the house was an old stone cottage. And we had a solid fuel cooker in the kitchen. And we had a little fire in the sitting room, which was only a tiny little room.
Yeah.
Similar to the little room in here. And that was the only heating we had in our house. So in winter time, you would literally wake up in bed and there was frost on the inside
That's
of the
right.
window.
Yeah.
But we had lots of big old hairy blankets and
Yes,
top
right.
coats.
Top coats, anything that was in the house you could put on the bed to keep them warm.
And I remember actually when I was younger, probably 5, 6 maybe, Michael and Jim and me and Rosemary, we all shared a double bed.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as, because that was life, you know.
Yeah.
And you were warmer as well. Obviously as we got older that changed, but it was just, when you think about it, it was just so humble compared to nowadays.
I remember growing up, my grandparents were from Newcastle, and I remember growing up as a small child, and we lived in the south in a central heating, you know, privileged children, you know, never seen. You went home, you went to your grandparents at Christmas, and there was an outside toilet,
Yeah.
and there was no heating, there was only one fire, the
Yeah.
sitting room, and you had the bath in front of the fire. My sister and I, as young children, thought this was amazing. But my grandparents, they were like, the bairns can't go to the outside. What about if they need to go to the toilet in the middle of the night? So they'd bring a pail and put it in the bedroom, and they'd say, pee in the pail. And then my grandfather would empty it out in the morning because you couldn't. But the whole thing to us was like going. I don't know. It was like going
an
back to
adventure.
for us. It was like going back to Victorian times.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And of course, then they'd come and stay with us, and they'd be absolutely roasting because you're in like a central heating house. We spent the whole time like that.
Yeah.
Well, Mummy and Daddy, I mean, they died, and that house still didn't have heating in. But they wouldn't have it.
No.
Wouldn't it?
No.
I remember one time Daddy telling us, Mammy talking about it, they were changing around the house and they were knocking an internal wall. Now, the houses then were made of stone. Like, what work was done on houses, like this house,
Yeah.
like that was all built without any machinery or any proper tools. They were handmade tools. But they decided anyway to knock an inside wall. And when they went to knock the wall, it was lined with turf.
Yeah.
Do you know the
Yeah.
turf from the
Yeah.
wall? That's what the wall was made of. And the outsides of the wall was somehow plastered with whitewash and all sorts.
Dung.
But the inside was all turf.
Different.
It's amazing the way that they were able to think up these things and were able to manage.
That would insulate.
I suppose
the house.
insulation.
Oh, that's right, for heat, yeah, for
Modern
heat.
insulation
Yeah.
was the old, you know, how they insulated
Yeah.
homes.
Yeah.
My great grandmother wouldn't have electricity, so she had a mangle and a washboard
Yeah.
and candlelight, and her company was a budgie.
Yeah.
She wouldn't have a radio because she was frightened of anything.
Men in the radio.
Yeah.
Anything coming into the house.
Yeah.
So, and she died when she was 89 or something, but she never had electricity. She wouldn't have it. When electricity came in, she wouldn't have it.
I remember when we didn't have it. You probably won't remember when we didn't
No.
have electricity.
Do you remember Daddy telling the story about the woman on the mountain when the television came out first? She was a widow and her husband had left her money and she was able to buy a television. Now at that time nobody had a television. She was the one of the first people ever to have a television. So on one of the nights she invited all the neighbours to see the news. And Charles Mitchell used to give out the news at the
He was a
time.
bit like Trevor MacDonald at home. You know,
Yeah.
he was the cream of newsreaders.
He wore a suit and all of that, you know, and up around Slievenamon. That was a thing never seen, you know. So anyway, all the neighbours went up anyway, and they were watching this, and they were all fixed in chairs and, you know, everything. The whole place whitewashed inside. And some of the women said to her, God, you're very busy, you're whitewashing and everything, you know, is there somebody coming, relations coming? Because, and she said, oh God, no, she said, that bloody Charles Mitchell, every night at 6 o'clock, she said, he throws his whole eye around the house. I have to have it right, she said.
Lovely.
Innocence.
Yeah.
Innocence.
Yeah.
It's better
literally
than
in
the
her
one of the video where the parents were recorded.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's better than
Or was it the Peter Kay sketch you said his grandmother or something wouldn't, she said, well, I can't pause it. She said, because everybody else around the country is going to have to wait till I'm literally if she controlled the whole network.
Or where they're waiting in I say where they're waiting in the kitchen because they're recording the TV.
Shh, we're recording.
I just seen him about 2 weeks ago.
Peter Kay, I love him.
Brother was crying, laughing.
You've seen that picture, have you?
I didn't, no.
Wow, is that the one with pressure?
Oh wow, oh my goodness.
And I had a car and there was just a sunroof in it. And the sunroof was open, right, the square on the top. And we were driving along, Richie was strapped in dead centre in the back and I was driving. And we were going along the Brandis, there wasn't a thing on the road, not another car, nothing. Just on a very straight part of the road on the way to Cashel. Actually Coolmore own a lot of it now. But I think it was the vet in Coolmore had a particular area at the time. So we were flying along anyway, and the next thing was, this thing flew by like this. Richard let a roar out, and I pulled up the car, and it was a big lump of shit. Came out. And he was faster in the back. I got out of the car, I thought, oh, he was screeching. I thought, and the bang it made. But it actually came through the roof. The windows were closing now.
What was the chance? Is this a aeroplane or?
I don't know. Still never found out. But I actually got out of the car.
What sort of? Did you smell it? What did you smell it?
Was it
cow?
No, I didn't think it was cow. Way more than a fortune. I'd say so, yeah.
What's everyone laughing about now?
Was it a lorry driver?
What?
Was it like a lorry driver going on the way?
There was absolutely nothing on the road. And so I got out of the car. I Richard was roaring in the back seat. He was absolutely plastered and all the seat. So I got out, I was standing on the road like this, oh Jesus. And this car came along and a man driving. And he stopped and he got out, he came back. He said, Mrs. he said, are you all right? I said, I'm not. He said, what's wrong with you? I said, well, you're looking at the child. I said, he went over that side of the road, there was a stone wall about this high. And he went to the other side, he said, there's not an animal in there. There's not an animal, he says, that you can see any place. I said, wouldn't you come out of an aeroplane? Campbell shot if it did. He actually examined it when he looked at it. He said, I've never in my life heard the like of this. He said, you have to go on Clonmel Radio.
Try to find the owner.
You can get DNA patches now, can't you?
You can now. I really say it came from the sky. It came from
So, UFO shit. Do you realise after that, you haven't learnt your lesson, have you? Because you've only bought a convertible.
And you know, it's very funny. If I'm going to cash it, it doesn't.
What are you going to do to it tonight?
I'm not going very far now. But we go for a bit.
I don't even know why you're laughing.
Yeah. But
Explain.
when I go to cash it now, I'll be going tomorrow evening, and if I'm driving, the very minute I get to the area of the road, I'm looking like this and sees everything. I never forgot it. And Richard has never forgotten it, and he knows the exact spot on the road where it happened. Yeah. When the ship
Did he smell something?
Someone's got
The shit had the fan. He's going to call it the fan. He's going to call it the fan. Oh, here's the fan.
It's a mystery. I mean, I never know where it came from or what really happened. Bang.
So Joanne, really the phrase being shot on from a great height might just come in a way.
And to be honest, if I'm in an aeroplane going to the loo, I'm quite
You don't do it wrong.
Maybe to pick. Not too close.
There's a lot of Ryanair flights come over this way.
You have no respect.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, it's only a couple of years ago, I was at home and it was kind of winter time. What would it be, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, I can't remember exactly now how long. But I was in the kitchen, facing leaving them on, at the sink, I was getting the dinner on. And I had just lit the stove in the sitting room. And it was a winter's night, because, you know, it was kind of cool. It was winter time. So I had the stove lighting anyway inside, and you know, after a while you need to turn it down a bit or close off the draft on it, so I was conscious of that. So I was in the kitchen and I was absolutely on my own. So it must be only since Richie started working with Michael, which is about 4 years ago, because they were in the garage. So anyway, the stove was lighted, I was getting the dinner on and busy doing my own thing. And the next thing is I heard this most awful noise. I thought, oh fuck, the sitting room was going on fire, which is nice. Oh Jesus, I said, what is it? This terrible noise appeared. And I was there and I thought, I ran into the sitting room and that was okay. And I ran back and this hot air balloon flew by the window and landed in the field. And the flames spun up like this and inside the basket in it. Oh Jesus! I ran out around the yard and Mike and Richard were running in out of the garage. Oh, it was nice. And there she was, going cascading down to the field and landed below the field in the middle of a heap of bullocks. I think what happened was they took off in Rockwell and it was getting nearly dark and they got worried, I think, and they just landed the bloody thing. And then the truck came along, you could see all the lights in the fields, gathering it and the people, a minibus for the people. Was it shooting? Just flew by the window.
You're connecting the hot air balloon now with the deposit that came through the
I don't know, there's something out to get me. Recently I was at home recently and I was getting the dinner on as well in the evening time, and this helicopter came along over and it appeared to knock the house. It really was now. And I thought to myself, my God, that's terribly low. So I went out anyway and it was a green helicopter. So I got up on the fuel bin at the hedge. I said, that thing, it went just over to across the mountain and it turned around in a circle. I said, the fucking thing is going to land somewhere. So I stayed watching it anyway and it came back in and it landed down onto the ground somewhere, I thought, in or around the village above, in Clooneen. So we discovered afterwards that my husband had a car in the garage looking after it, doing a job on it for some woman. And maybe I suppose 10 minutes later, this woman rang and she said, Michael, I'm just wondering, is my car ready? And Michael said, yes. He said, it's just going out of the garage now, it's ready. Oh, she said, my son-in-law, she said, is after having a bad accident and the helicopter has landed to take him. Oh, no. But they couldn't land near his house. So they landed in the football field and they actually got a caretaker up there to get men out of the pub as quickly as they could and run around in case there was any glass on the ground for the helicopter to land. And they actually took off. I waited and he was landed now about, oh God, I'd say 30 minutes on the ground. And the next thing is it went up again and it headed off this direction, which I thought must be Dublin. You know, it's not Cork, there must be living for Dublin. You know, so as it turned out anyway, this particular fella, he only lives actually between here and the village, on a bend. But he had visitors home and he was after they had young kids, and he got the nappies belonged to the children and put them in the stove, but he soaked them in petrol first, and the whole thing blew.
Oh my
I don't know why he did that, but he's still in hospital with
Who's that,
with
Joanne?
Fingrass, Robin O'Sullivan.
Really?
When was this?
Just it's only about what 8 weeks ago. Yeah. So there was this helicopter. I thought we said the next he said one of them landed on the house or something. These, you know, between that now and the hot air balloon, and then the shit in the window.
Yeah.
Come on, Giacomo.
Oh,
All right,
take care.
No, Giacomo.
We had the carrots growing in the garden, and we used to go out and we used to bring in the carrots, and all we used to do was wash them.
Or even if we were weeding, we wouldn't even wash them. We'd
And
spit on them and
Your
clean them.
fingers would be orange from the juice of the carrots and the flavour of them.
Yeah.
Like nowadays, if you give somebody carrots and put a blindfold on them, they wouldn't know they were eating carrots because this,
It tastes
you know,
really different.
your own tastes so different, you know.
I still think about my dad's tomatoes over the years.
Oh, the smell of it.
And tomatoes that you get now, it's like, what's that? It's just...
Yeah.
I smell them. before
I
the
do.
vine.
Yeah.
I don't buy them now unless they're on the vine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
I
right.
do
If
the
they're on the
same.
vine, I'll buy them because you can get
Yeah.
smell. And if you
But-
leave the vine on them, they'll keep the
But you
smell
never
as
keep
well.
them.
I still think it's a bit false
Never.
though, in comparison to the
Never.
greenhouse ones.
Eggs or
What is that?
tomatoes, eggs have been
Never
afraid
be
to
kept
touch.
in the
Yeah.
fridge.
No, or eggs.
And if you make
Or
a
eggs.
cake with eggs that come out of the fridge, it never turns out right because you never get the proper air into
Yeah.
it.
No, room temperature.
Tip
That's
on the top.
awesome. All the
Tip
stuff
on the top.
tasted like that, Joe.
Huh?
All the stuff tasted like that.
Yeah. I was just
Just
remember
fantastic.
those tomatoes years ago. I was just like, now it's like, oh, that's not smart.
Didn't you send some seeds over from Australia?
The yellow ones?
tomatoes?
But
Oh,
yeah,
it was
you
made
should
up
blow
of
away
that.
with it.
He was made
Yeah,
up of them.
climate would be a bit different, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Australia.
You used to go though really, really big ones.
Big
skin would
tomatoes,
be,
Yeah.
the skin would,
You'd
Yeah,
save,
the
save the
texture,
seeds on them as well.
But the yellow ones now add more flesh to them rather than seed. There's
big
tomatoes.
boys or something they call them.
That's
You
it,
look
yeah.
at them.
They're the ones.
Yeah.
I was
I
thinking,
tell you where they have
Give it
nice,
a
because I like the tomatoes. A lot. You either like tomatoes or you don't. I love them.
Yeah.
And if you
Bit of
go into
salt.
Lidl,
Sea
and
salt.
Lidl have all these different coloured ones.
That's
Some
right.
like yellow.
Yeah.
They're lovely.
And they aren't they? They're really, really nice.
Yeah.
And they're only like little cherry tomatoes. Or
Like gold colour, aren't they? Some of them are very
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah. But they're all, they sell them in like a cocktail of
Yeah.
tomatoes
Yeah.
and they're really nice.
Yeah.
and when you talk about Giovanna and sort of making the whole,
Oh,
The
God.
passata.
the whole,
From original, from vine
the
grown
real,
tomatoes.
yeah.
A friend, who Giacomo is named after a good friend, very good friend's husband, he's Sicilian, and they had the most beautiful garden at the back of their house where they. They're back. Are they back? No,
He's
he's
lost his hand.
back.
Oh, right, he's got his hands up still.
Can't be freezing now.
Oh, wait, man. You know what he said as he left? He says, "What's the top speed on this, Joanne?"
How many years?
In what gear?
They've been listening to Tip FM.
I think Shani wants to go. Do you, pet?
Oh,
Go have NASCAR.
What else has cropped up? What she's going to do next year? Should be interesting next year.
Right, Mammy and I were in town this particular day doing the shopping.
Clonmel.
Yeah, in Clonmel, and that's 30 years ago, nearly. But Pat was about a year and a half, 2 years old, say at the most, and he was sitting in, he was about Aiden's age now, 2. And he was sitting in the back of the car all on his own, and we had the shopping in the boat coming home from town. And Mammy had just been to the butcher's shop, which was the last shop we went into in Clonmel, in Oakville there. If you know, if you go into Whelan's, it's a nice, lovely butcher shop, still there. So Mammy went in and she got her British meat, whatever she was buying anyway, like 2 big bags of it. So came out anyway and left it on the seat beside Pat. He was strapped into his seat in the back seat, so she just left it up on the back seat of the car. So we were talking away, coming home and tracing and talking and so on and so forth. We came to our house, Mammy's house at home, my home place. And we pulled up the car anyway on the road to unload the shopping. And Mammy turned around and she says, "Oh Christ," she says, "he's eating the pig's head." He was after getting out of his head, out of the bag, and he had half the ear eaten off.
Was it raw?
Yes.
Oh, Jesus. And hairy.
And it's hairy and it's grizzly. And
That kid's got guts.
He had,
And the pig's ear was a bit right as well.
Did he use a tag as well?
But when Mammy saw him anyway, and I looked back and there he was, half was up on his lap, and he chewed away at the ear. He had a big piece gone out of it. And Mammy says, Christ. So she went to take him, and he nearly had a fit in the car. So I had to drive home with him and take him and the pig's head out at home, and bring the fucking pig's head in the evening to Mammy. That really happened now. That really happened. We couldn't get it off him. He was absolutely going
Did you
mad.
not feed him, Joanne?
Well, no. Actually, I thought I did. And he's so quiet in the back of the car, and he chewed this thing.
Wasn't he shouting for cabbage?
No, we had the cabbage all right. But I actually had to take him and
ribs alone, will
he said home. Imagine that. He would not let go of it.
That sounds like me with my meat.
The next day for the dinner. So I had to parcel it up that evening when he'd forgotten about it and bring it down.
What does he say about it now when he's telling the story?
He hardly believes, Julie, that's
No.
Does he sound like Paul?